Hello Flosstube, my name is Deb. I'm the Traveling Stocking Stitcher. I'm really happy they're here today because I have finally decided that it is time to start stitching a chatelaine. What's this big old clock have to do with stitching a chatelaine? I'll get to that in a minute. The first chatelaines that I purchased, I bought 3 of them back in the pandemic days. November, for Black Friday, around Thanksgiving in the U.S., the European cross-stitch company that sells the fibers, the specialty fibers, the silks, and those kinds of things, and the bead packs, has a sale, a Black Friday sale. And so I purchased the Mini Mystery 3 mandala, which is a small one to get my feet wet. I've stitched that one. I don't have it fully finished yet, but I'll put a picture of it here and I'll show you once I get it totally done. Maybe I'll have a chatelaine finish parade one of these days. But I also ordered beaded peacock tile. Haven't started that one yet. But I finally got up the courage and the necessary supplies to do the Venice Mandala, which was my ultimate goal, to do the Venice Mandala Chatelaine. And so, like I said, I ordered it in November 2021. I received it more than 6 months later. It was July of 2022 that it came in because there was, with the pandemic, a global shortage of everything, the Glorianas in particular, were short, hard to get. And then I started about a week and a half ago, so we're looking at October 13th of 2023 is my start date. So that's what I did. And the reason I decided to start, for a few reasons, it's winter. Or getting to be winter now. I like to stitch outside, and I didn't want to take the risk with the mandalas. It's so big, and it's got the specialty fibers, and you can't wash a lot of the silks because the colors will run. So I didn't want to take a risk of dropping in the dirt or just being outside and getting dirty or what have you. So I'll be inside more, be able to have more time to stitch on it. And you're working with beads. I don't want to lose my beads, that kind of thing. So I figured, all right, let's get started. But the other reason is a really good resource that I will recommend you to, and I'll put the link down below, is the Chatelaine Gallery. And they have pictures of actual stitched, finished projects. And when I saw this Venice Mandala, one of the finishes is finished in this beautiful round silver filigree frame. It's just gorgeous. And I thought, that's what I want. I want it to be round. It's one of the few mandalas that Martina Rosenberg did that are more of a round shape than a square shape. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's what I want it to look like. But then I thought, well, I don't have any children, so I don't have a firstborn to give a framer, because I can't imagine what the cost would be, one, to have something this size framed, but framed in a round frame, which I'm sure would be incredibly prohibitively expensive. So I struck on the idea of, well, what else is round and has glass? And I thought of clocks. Clocks or mirrors are another option. So I set about my search. And whenever we go to a garage sale or a thrift store, I would, go hunting for one. I would go off to the clock section, and I would, if I saw any candidates, I would come back to my husband, who was over in electronics looking at stuff, and I would do the universal symbol for tape measure, because he always carries one. He'd hand it over, and I'd go back and check and see if I could find one. Well, it took a long time. It took almost a year, I think, to find one that was the right size. This particular design is 367 stitches by 367 stitches, so it's about 23 inches wide. I'm doing it on 32 count. So, and I needed to have a little more clearance, so at minimum 24 inches is what I was kind of looking for. And so this one just about fits the bill. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it and have you see it. Oh, you need to hold it the other direction. I hold it here. It's just almost, I can't see you, hopefully you can see it, 24 inches. There we go, almost 24 inches across. Now I found another one. This one's not my favorite necessarily. It is plastic, but it's not too bad. It doesn't look too chintzy. you know, from a distance you probably won't know. I found this other one, and I will insert this in another camera because it's a mirror. My husband was kind enough to set up a separate side camera, so I wasn't holding it up and, you know, you wouldn't see the cameras and the lights and all the other stuff. So I'll insert what this one looks like. This one's really more preferred. This is really a pretty mirror that I would like to use. But I think maybe a different chatelaine, or maybe done even on one that's on a smaller size, might fit in this one nicely as well. And like I said, even though most of the chatelaines are more square, I went through and I kind of took a look at things and thought, you know, there's a number of them where you could leave off the corners. And not to detract from these things are beautiful, I wouldn't want to leave anything out. But if you really wanted to put it in a round frame, some of them, but just by taking off the corner pieces, would save you some stitching and would also allow you to put it in a frame. So that's a possibility when I start looking for my next one, when I finish this one, optimistically, that I'll be ready to have this other frame. So here's what it looks like. So this is my other setup. This is, we had to do a little finagling here to shoot the mirror without shooting the camera. So this is the other alternative that I found. This one's a little smaller though. This is only about 20-some inches wide. So I am not going to be able to use this for the Venice Mandala, but hopefully for some other one. But I do like the detail much better on this one. So I'm hoping in the future I could be using this on a different mandala. So a tip, if you're looking for one of these large clocks or mirrors, I would suggest that you would search for, if you're trying to go on the low end, that you search in the more, or go to like the Goodwills or the thrift stores in the more affluent neighborhoods, because they have the houses that have the big, huge wall space, can accommodate these big, oversized frames or clocks or mirrors, and they also probably are more likely to switch out their decor more often and, you know, get rid of it all and bring something else in. And it did turn out to be, that's where I found it, in one of the more higher-end suburbs of our metro area. And so, just a tip, if you're looking, that might help you out a little bit. In the process of the year it took me to find this, I also happened upon a 17 by 17 inch Q-snap, which I'm not so sure. This is going to be, I think this will become handy when I'm beading. I don't think I want to stitch on the design itself unless it, you know, when it gets bigger. Maybe I'll do this, but definitely when I'm doing the beading, until I get to the real outer perimeters, I might have to put it on a scroll frame at that point. But that's exciting. And then I also happened to run across, for $1 somewhere, it was originally $15, a 17 by 17 Q-snap grime guard that I will be able to use on this as well. So that's all very exciting. So all those led me to have the confidence that yes, it is time to start my chatelaine. So like I said, I've been doing this for about a week and a half, and I'll show you what I've got, the setup I'm using right now. I'm using an 11 by 11 Q-snap, which kind of surprised myself that I was using something small, but I'm just moving it around as I get to different areas. So this is what I'm working on, and I've just got these things here. I'm kind of on the fence to hold back the fabric, because if I take them off, it's not really that obstructionist, or obstructing, getting in my way. That's the word I'm looking for. It's not really bugging me that much to have this fabric in the corners, so I don't know. And when I get to the bigger Q-snap, I don't think I'll need those. We'll see. But let me pop it off here and show you where we're at. So here it is. Something behind here. I have not done a lot of the specialty stitches. When I first started out, I thought I would wait to do those because I was worried about those getting squished under the Q-snaps and stuff. And then I started some up in this corner up here. So I think I will start doing those a little bit more, because I don't want to have to do them all at the end and then also have to do the beading all at the end. So here we are. This center one, I've heard that this center, and this is kind of the one that sold me on it, aside from the fact that I've been to Venice and love Venice and I think it's gorgeous, and some of the other elements on here are really cool too. But this design, I love blue, and almost all this middle part is going to be beads. So even though it doesn't look that impressive right now, it'll be all beaded in the middle there. And then the corners here have specialty stitches on them. And I started doing a little bit of the back stitching in here, just to kind of, I decided to wait to be able to show you the difference that makes. And I wore this shirt on here too because it kind of looks like that same detail. In the description they kind of discuss it, she calls it the Venice mirror, and I think that's what this is supposed to represent, is a Venetian mirror, Venetian glass. So very, very pretty. And so when I got done with the middle piece, the blue part here, I started working up in this corner. Oh, and just to kind of give you a little background of how I'm approaching this, because I don't know that I've heard other people talking about this, you know, in terms of, they tell you to buy the PDF because the paper copy, I can't even imagine trying to stitch this off of paper copy. The PDF, you can make it bigger, obviously, but it's very difficult, and the symbols are kind of tricky to see. So what I've done is, when these were originally released, they were done in kind of episodes as a class, and so they give you little pieces of them. So first of all is the middle square, and then the next one is these corners here, the greenish kind of corners on the outside, and then the third row, the thing that I'm working on, are these purple ones around the edges with this corner medallion. And you know, they're each individual charts, so I would load the individual charts into Pattern Keeper. And so I've got maybe, I think there's 9 or some. One didn't load, and when I get to that point, I'll have another video. I'll talk a little bit more about why that one didn't load, and I think I'm going to have to do that one just off of the PDF. But I would recommend that you keep an eye on all of them. The black and white, the color PDF, and also the Pattern Keeper. One of the issues is because there's like 9 different pieces to it, and some of them you repeat around the corners and stuff, those all have to be loaded, so you have to load in the colors, so you have to go through all the symbols again and reload them. They didn't load, so I manually had to load in the colors, and so that takes some time to do. And like I said, the symbols are a little tricky, so you want to be very careful. Also keep an eye on that's where the Chatelaine Gallery comes in handy too, to make sure that when you look at a symbol and you think you've gotten the right color, make sure it looks like the right color, because there's a couple where it was questionable as to what the symbol really looked like, because sometimes they look like a negative version, like one looked like a white arrow, and then on Pattern Keeper it looked like a black arrow. So that's where looking at the black and white versus the color versus the Pattern Keeper will help. So for the most part when I'm stitching, because fractional stitches and back stitching and specialty stitches, those won't work in Pattern Keeper. So keep an eye on all of them. It's a little tricky, but I haven't run into big problems. The one problem I did run into was on me. I'll show you this picture. I was thinking I was done with the middle section and decided to go up and do this corner up here. This corner. One of these corners. Doesn't matter. And I had not finished the last row around the diagonal square in the middle. Started stitching the other part and got almost the whole thing done before I realized that I was off 1 stitch. So I had to frog out, let me look for it, 764 stitches. Now, one of the nice things about working with silks is they come out a lot easier, and I was able to salvage most of it because I was a little worried about, oh, am I going to have enough to finish this? There's going to be dye lot problems, and have some of them discontinued, and who knows. But I managed. Everything's fine. I pulled it out in a matter of a couple hours. It was a lot less to frog than I was to put it in, and restitched it, and it went pretty fast. So I think ultimately there are probably about 80,000 stitches in here. Like I said, it's a little tricky because the way the charts are broken up, plus, you know, some of the charts show you as a reference point the last part you did, so the stitch count in Pattern Keeper is a little inflated because you've got those reference points that you have to take out of there, and then some things you repeat 4 times and they only show you one chart of it. So I think it's about 80,000 stitches. That's my best guess for what I'm doing there. One of the other things that I ran into is one of the fab flosses they didn't send me that on the Chatelaine Gallery. The other thing it will give you is corrections or suggestions. So if something's discontinued or if there's something that's unclear in the pattern, they'll give you suggestions for what. And one of them was that the black color was discontinued. So I had to get that on my own. I was a little surprised that they didn't make a reference to it in the package, that they just didn't ship it to me. And the other was one Flowers of Italy, Gloria, or was it Gloriana? I don't know, but it was one, no, it was a different brand, but it was not included in the pack. And I think it might be because they must be filling the orders using the actual thread thing, which I'll insert here. And I'll circle kind of way off to the side is the Flowers of Italy, and I don't know if they just missed it. I don't know. It's been a year and a half. I can't really go back and say, hey, where did that floss go? One other thing that I want to mention on Pattern Keeper, I also put in the fractional stitches as blends. So if there was, you know, half a stitch here and half a stitch there, I would put it in as, you know, the blend of one and blend of the other. And you kind of tell, because it looked like it was divided by a diagonal, that it was not a blend but a half stitch. And I don't think there are any blends in here that I've noticed. So that's a tip for you if you're using Pattern Keeper as well. The other thing that I might want to mention is Chatelaine.de, the Chatelaine website that has, they're the one that sells the charts and the PDFs. They have a page that shows a lot of the specialty stitches, and they show them right-handed and left-handed, which had never occurred to me that left-handed stitches might be different than right-handed stitches. But that's they've also got a website, Dizzy and Creative website it's called, that has a link in there that has a lot of specialty stitches instructions. So if you're worried about specialty stitches, so far I haven't encountered anything that's real odd or weird. They're easy enough to do. The other thing about Chatelaines, hashtag Chatelaine Wednesday, Kitschy Whips and Fiber Arts Amy on Instagram and on Flosstube have a Wednesday thing where you can share what you're doing, and so that's always a fun thing to do. If you want to get in on the fun, there's also a Chatelaine support group that's on Facebook. In addition to people posting what they're doing, they also typically do a weekend sale where they say, hey everybody, it's Friday, show what you're working on, come back on Sunday and update and show us what progress you've made. So that's kind of fun to see what other people are working on and how things are going for people as well. Let's take one last close look at what I've got on here. You can sort of see that I'm at almost getting to be about 11 inches wide here. My finger's in the way. 11 inches wide from side to side there once I get those corner things done. So we're about getting to the halfway width point, I would say. And granted, there's a bunch of stuff that goes in between there, but that's what she looks like so far. So I've got a couple other things that I had started before I started the Chatelaine, and I'd like to keep these into play. I think maybe I'll work on the Chatelaine for maybe in the morning or during the day, and then in the evening I can work on one of these others. My concern a little bit with Chatelaine is because there's so many repetitive features, everything's, you know, ×4, that it'll get a little boring. And I've had to restrain myself. You know, you want to just keep going and let me get to the next element and keep going out. But I've said, nope, you got to eat your vegetables and before you can have your dessert. So I've been making sure that I finish around except for the specialty stitches and the beading. And I think I will pick up doing the specialty stitches as I go along as well. But because I don't want to, you know, keep getting to the next one. Okay, now I've done all the unique designs. Now I have to go back and 3 times over do the same stuff over and over again. So my tip to you to keep it fresh is to delay that gratification and stitch all the pieces before you move on to the next segment of chart. And as for a seal of approval or shout-outs, I went looking for somebody that showed a Venice Mandala Chatelaine and was not able to find one. I thought I had seen one quite a while ago when I first was thinking about doing it and ordering it, but I think it was probably Russian and maybe it's been taken down or blocked or something because of the war. If anybody knows of any videos that are out there about the Venice Chatelaine, I would be more than pleased to see one, but I don't have a recommendation for you on that particular topic. But in the meantime, I've been working on some Charley Harper. This is a picture of what the design, this is called Gift Wrapped. A bunch of raccoons looking in a window at a bunch of presents. And this is what it looks like. I've got a little bit more progress than the last time you saw it. You can see I've got the kind of the basting of where the stocking is going to be, a Christmas stocking is going to go. Haven't decided yet. I may, if I stick a little raccoon's face over here just to fill out the toe. Otherwise, I might just leave it as it is, but then I'm going to put some other stuff up here. Still waiting on some red Krynic, so that's why I kind of took a break here. That the packages are the last thing, and then I've got to do some specialty stitches on their hands, some lazy daisies, that kind of stuff that I will finish up when that's done. I may also put a row across the top, even though design doesn't call for it. It just doesn't make sense to have it sticking out. So here's the design, but I think because the idea is they're looking through a window, but because I've got stuff above it, I might put another row across the top, a couple of rows across the top. And the other one that I'm doing, and this is one that, in addition to the chatelaine, I've wanted to do for a very long time. As soon as I saw it, this is the Christmas Caper by Charley Harper, and I just love his designs, the art. And the reason I waited so long to do this, I've had this chart at least a year, is because I was trying to, I saw this picture that was done in needlepoint of specialty stitches, and it looked so, it was almost three-dimensional. It was really cool. I thought, I've got to figure out a way to do this. But it scared me, and I eventually got up the courage and started doing it, and I'm having a blast doing it. But now, and I think though, once I had the courage to start this, it gave me the courage to start the chatelaine. So those little tiny steps, those baby steps, are important to get you to where you're going to go. So I'll show you what I have. I won't talk through this too much because when I get it done, maybe I'll talk through a little bit more about how I did things and stuff. But here is what I have so far. Like I said, I've sort of made up, kind of try to figure out what specialty stitches to use. I did use, these are 1 centimeter felt balls that I bought on Etsy. And the popcorn are just from French knots with pearl cotton. And so, but I'll talk this through next time. Just to mention while I have it sort of in this shape here, I did kind of have to go up the side here because these courses of bricks are 1 stitch longer because they've got the specialty stitch and then the mortar and the specialty stitch and the mortar and the specialty stitch. So instead of being, I think it was 10 rows, it's now 11 rows for each course of brick in between the mortared breaks there. On a 14 count fabric, or 28 count fabric this is, it's going to be about 1/2 inch taller, the chimney here. And so you see on the original, the raccoon's tail ends at the top of the brick. And so I had to kind of figure out placement-wise where he's going to be. He's not going to probably come all the way down to the eave. He's going to be up a little bit, about 1/2 inch. But I had to figure out where the placement of the garland was going to go. And so I basically stitched what I could up here on the side. And then I went through and kind of looked at the picture and said, okay, I put little dots as to where it seemed like would be evenly spaced to put those. And so I've still got some more to put on there. But I now know where the chimney will be, and I'll be able to know where to start the raccoon. And I've got some more fabric, or I've kind of held off on him because I was going to use some different fibers as well. So I think I'm going to use Whisper Help Me. I'm not a big fan of Whisper, but they kind of had fuzzy faces in the picture that I saw, so I want to try to use some fuzzy faced fabric, material, fiber. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll hope to be showing you more progress on my chatelaine, and we'll see how things go time-wise. Bye.